All right, everybody. Good evening. Welcome back. And we've got a few more wide receivers to look at here. Earlier today, we did the receivers that I think are going to go in the mid to late first round. So now we're moving on to the next group. These are guys that are currently expected to go somewhere around the first half of the second round. So early second rounders, maybe they creep up into the late part of the first, which maybe is compelling for Seahawks fans. I don't know how many Seahawks fans really want the first pick to be a receiver, but I can't rule it out either. So let's talk about a few guys here. First guy is Omar Cooper Jr. of the Indiana Hoosiers, national champions, 22 years old. He's got decent size, a little bit smaller than average, but by modern standards, probably more or less in line with typical. The problem is he's got super short arms. He's got 30 and a quarter inch arms, 10th percentile, and that is something that weighs heavily on the evaluation. Now, he is very fast, or I shouldn't say very fast, but he's fast enough to stand out. 4.42. The 1.55 split isn't great, but it's also not the worst. 37-inch vert. Most of the big boards I use have him in the second. CBS has him in the first. Walter has him in the fourth, so they're an extreme outlier here. And the Draft Network didn't have him in their top 100 at all, so that's interesting. But the aggregate has him in the early to mid second. You can see the year he just had, almost 1,000 yards, 13 touchdowns, 69 catches. So productive. The year before that, he was very, very efficient on the catches he made, but not as much production. So Omar Cooper Jr., let's talk about him a little bit. Positives as I see them, he's very physical and willing to play through contact. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but he is very scrappy, and he does understand how to survive contact and maintain the play even through physical play. He understands how to find holes in zone coverage. He's another one of these receivers that has a pretty good grasp of finding the hole in zone, sitting down, and waiting for the ball to come to him. He's also a really good route runner in the sense that he knows how to throttle, and that's an underrated skill. Some of these guys, they just try to bolt through their routes. Omar Cooper is a guy who understands you got to throttle, you got to shift gears, and you've got to find the right pattern and cadence to throw off the defender. And for whatever it's worth, and I don't know how much this is going to be worth, it's always really hard to know. He was pretty effective at Indiana when he played on the outside, despite his short arms. So you have to at least ask the question. And while he's not the biggest guy in the world, he has good contact balance. He's able to generate extra yards after getting hit. He's really got some unique skills for a guy his size. Now, the concerns I have with Omar Cooper are also relatively clear. The short arms means he may end up just playing in the slot, which is not ideal, obviously. That does diminish his value. Indiana's offense is all about running a lot of RPOs, so there aren't that many routes he has to run. It's a pretty simplified offense, and while he is a good route runner on a technical level, his route tree is a little bit more limited. His acceleration is not great, even though he has a pretty good top speed. And given the kind of player he is, I think you're going to need to get a little bit more out of him as a run blocker, and that's just going to be on him advancing as a player. So it's frustrating because I feel like this would be a easy first rounder if he had longer arms. You give him another inch and a half on his arms, I think you've got something, but it's so uneven. My thoughts on Omar Cooper Jr. are so conflicted. I ended up saying late second rounder unless he proves he can play on the outside, and the only way he's going to be able to do that is to get to the NFL. It it was a tough eval for me, and I still don't totally know how to feel. There's stuff here that I really like, but I worry about that route tree, and I worry about the arms. And he doesn't have great acceleration, so the speed, I mean, it's still valuable, but I think you guys get what I'm getting at here. It's a mix. Okay, next guy is Malachi Fields of Notre Dame. This is another very interesting player, 24 years old, so older than a lot of the other guys who are likely to go off the board early. But 6 foot 4.5. I think he's the biggest receiver in this class. He's certainly the biggest major one to my knowledge. 218 pounds, 86th percentile. He's got pretty long arms, not as long as you might expect, but 32 and an eighth is good enough. Kind of has small hands. Read into that as you will. He did give it his all at the combine, but in the process, he kind of showed you what he is. And none of this is surprising. We know he's slow. We know he doesn't accelerate fast, but it was still it's still like a 4.6, 140, 163, 10-yard split. That's not going to put you up there with the top dogs. Now the good news is he's explosive. He had good jumps. His 3-cone was actually surprisingly good. So there is some athleticism here, but he's not a stellar athlete. Again, this is not DK Metcalf. He's got the size, he's got the lackluster production like Metcalf had coming out of college, but he's not DK Metcalf because he's not the same athlete. Nevertheless, most big boards have him in around the second, PFF has him in the third, Draft Network and Walter have him in the first. So the aggregate has him at 42, so the slightly early part of that second round. Did not have a big 2025. It is worth noting Notre Dame throws the ball very little because they like to run it. They've got 2 really good running backs there, so it's hard to put up numbers. And the previous year, he did have 800 yards, a little bit better, but he did not have the big numbers that you might be hoping for in college. But it's more or less what you're expecting, right? It's kind of like Denzel Boston. You know what's up here. He's slow, but he's big. He's one of the biggest receivers in this class, like I said, and he knows how to use it when he gets the ball in his hands. He's actually pretty good with yak because he has an understanding of how to play with power and run tacklers over in the secondary. He's good in tight coverage. He's good making contested catches, so he has an understanding of how to utilize his size. He's got a big catch radius. You get the ball anywhere near him, he's going to be able to make a play on it, and he's got good hands. He's not going to drop a lot of stuff. And he's got great run blocking skills, so he is going to bring some things to the table there. And you can see the use case for Malachi Fields very easily, I think. I think that just looking at this guy's physical profile, you can already get a pretty good feel for what he is. Now, the speed is not there. He's not very fast. He doesn't separate well. It's easy to cover him because he's slow. He doesn't run great routes. He's a little bit lacking in that area. It's a little bit difficult for him to run good routes with his physical profile. And this is another thing that concerns me. It doesn't seem like he handles press that well to me. And if you can't handle press, then being a bigger receiver is a little bit harder to get through. So he's more or less what you're expecting. I'm not a big fan here. The part where he struggles against press bugs me because I feel like that's going to be an important part of him finding success in the NFL. So I ended up going late second round. There's a little too much work to be done for me to go higher than that. There is cool stuff here, but overall, I just find myself thinking if you're not going to be able to get open and you can't run very good routes, then there's a specific use case, and how much can I value that? Like, are you going to be Dez Bryant? I mean, even Dez Bryant was, I think, more athletic than this. Final guy for this video is going to be Zachariah Branch of Georgia, the Bulldogs. Interesting player, and I mean that in positive and negative ways. He's 22, very small, one of the smallest receivers in this draft, and will be one of the smallest receivers in the NFL after he gets drafted. 177 pounds. It's not Tutu Atwell, but it's not far off. 29 and 3/8 inch arms. Very short arms. Tiny hands. Well, small hands, to be fair. Very, very fast. Ran a 4.35. Quick to accelerate. Ran a 1.5 flat. Got a little bit of explosion in those hips as well. And although buyer beware, he does have very short arms, cranked out 20 bench press reps. The big boards, we got seconds. We got one first from the Draft Network. I think Walter doesn't have him at all. PFF has him third. The aggregate has him in the middle of the second round. That seems to be about where he's going to go. Coming off a pretty good year in Georgia, really high catch rate, although put a pin in that for a second. But 800 yards, 81 catches, only 10 yards per catch, and he's not really a big play threat. We know this. But productive in that Georgia offense. Good player. So positives would be he's got top end speed and acceleration, although I know you guys are wondering why doesn't he have more yards per catch? Why is he down here at 10? That's pretty poor. Get more on that in a second here, but he does have the speed and acceleration to be a theoretical big play threat. He's also got good open field moves. He's somebody that's going to be very elusive and hard to tackle once he gets in open space. He's good at reading zone and finding the gaps in coverage. And even though he is very small, and I'm not saying you're going to get a lot of mileage out of this, but he's willing to play physically. He is willing to try to make contested catches and go over the middle and play through contact. And he's also going to be a really good punt returner, which we as Seahawks fans care about right now because it doesn't look like we're going to be keeping Rashid Shaheed around much longer. But there is a little bit of positive value there. Now, some of the concerns, he's obviously a slot receiver. In no way this guy plays outside. He's way too small. I cannot see it. Like, there's only one Steve Smith. He's also a big time, and I mean big time bubble screen merchant. Apparently 55 or something like that. Something like 55% of his targets were bubble screens or equivalents. It's all just super easy stuff around the line of scrimmage. That's why his yards per catch are so low. That's why his catch rate is so high. He is a bubble screen merchant. And because of that, he has very little route running. He doesn't really run routes because he almost never has to in Georgia. So it almost feels like you're going to have to start over from the top, from the very bottom, if Georgia, yeah, I'm sorry, if you draft this guy. He's really, really small, like I said, and it's fair to be concerned about his body holding up. Like, how many hits can a guy who's not even 180 pounds take? If he adds weight, what happens to his speed? So I kind of feel like he's a gadget player at the end of the day. I like the speed, I like the elusiveness, but you didn't see that much of it in college, so how much can I trust it? It feels like fool's gold, so I'm kind of staying away until the third round on this one. I struggle. All right, that's it for this video. More stuff coming soon. See you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think. See you guys soon. Everybody have a good rest of your day.